Escape for 5 nights on the TCM Classic Cruise, November 12th to the 17th aboard the Disney Dream.
How far off the diving board do you want me to jump?
To Grand Cayman and Disney's Castaway Cay with legends Chevy Chase, Richard Dreyfuss, Lainie Kazan, Dina Martin, Pat Boone, Bob Mackey, Sean Young, plus TCM's 5 hosts. Book your stateroom today. Visit tcmcruise.com or call 1-877-223-7030.
She was the face. She was a star. She made headlines when she talked.
Give me a whiskey, ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby.
And when she laughed. She was Garbo, an elusive presence on screen and off. Greta Garbo was captivated, though, by the written word. A woman of letters, Garbo was an avid reader throughout her life, often reciting poetry and prose alike from memory. This, a cherished poem, she would often sing. In Stockholm town, at Kungstorg, in Hallbeck's second-hand bookstore, I bought an ancient dream book once, composed in days of yore. Then I lay dreaming all last night of Beatrice Aurore. She was a one-time love of mine, whom I lost long before. She stood so close. She took my hand. She whispered, "Come to me." At once I understood and knew my only love was she. We wandered down a linden walk. I wept and I was sad. The autumn leaves were wet and sere, and yet my heart was glad. We walked and held each other's hand. Like children's were our words. And then we reached a quaint old mill with many singing birds. I said, "Will you be mine alone? Say, Beatrice Aurore." "Then catch me if you can," she cried, and left me at the door. And I ran in and searched in every nook around, and cried, but Beatrice Aurore was nowhere to be found. I woke up crying bitterly, and in my heart a sting. And in my dream book then I searched, but there was not a thing.
Rhapsody in Blue is the single most popular American concert piece composed in the century. The thing that's fascinating is that George Gershwin wrote it in 3.5 weeks. He wrote it because Paul Whiteman announced that Gershwin was going to write this piece for a concert he was giving on Lincoln's birthday, 1924. George called up Whiteman and said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, will you write it?" And George said, "Okay, I'll try." So this piece was written very quickly, and nobody expected it was going to have the success that it had. 4 months later, Rhapsody in Blue was recorded by Victor Records, and when George went home to his brother Ira and said, "They're going to record Rhapsody in Blue," Ira's response was, "Why? Who's going to listen to it?" They considered it a piece of special material, but only a year later, it was one of the most popular concert pieces, and it became performed by orchestras all over the world. It's a piece that will always retain its energy and its freshness, and that's part of the allure of George Gershwin.
A favorite movie? Do you have one?
Yeah.
One you've seen a few times, or too many to count? Is it the one that still makes you laugh? The one that still scares you? Does it have your favorite scene? Your favorite director? Your favorite line that you quote one too many times?
Well, nobody's perfect.
You talking to me?
Hello, gorgeous.
Do you watch it because of him or her?
Hidey-ho!
Or because of them? A favorite movie. Do you have one? Chances are, it's one of ours too.
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
We're home to the movies. The ones you loved then and now.
2, 3, 4.
The turning of the projector is just the beginning. The untold stories behind celluloid illuminate the pages of the TCM library, where classic films and screen legends take on new brilliant dimensions. Turn it up. Rock on Film, the movies that rock the big screen, by writer and former Rolling Stone editor Fred Goodman, records the indelible sounds, sonic stories, and stars that have electrified both stage and screen. Find this title and more wherever books and ebooks are sold.
side. Well, I don't need you. I'm all you've got.
TCM and Fathom Events present the 55th anniversary of In the Heat of the Night, returning to cinemas October 16th and 19th only.
What kind of a place is this?
Featuring insight by TCM.
What you do up there in little old Pennsylvania?
I'm a police officer.
For more information, visit fathomevents.com.
What do they call you up there?
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Lights. Camera. Action. Whether it's in front of or behind the camera, the story of Hollywood cannot be told without the significant contributions of Latin and Hispanic artists.
Impossible!
Viva El Cine! TCM celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month. Beginning September 18th, explore essential films and performances by Latin or Hispanic artists.
I'm gonna show you I can fight, show you I can take them.
Plus, insights from scholar Luis Reyes, author of Viva Hollywood. Sundays beginning at 8 p.m. on TCM.
You know, it's strange because you're looking at it, you can't quite turn away, no matter how disgusted. You can't quite believe what you're seeing.
I'm not about to deny anybody's pain upon seeing these images, because of course they're disturbing.
Certainly, it's difficult to face things that are ugly in our history. But denial is worse.
Many, if not most, of the performers we think of as the very backbone of the film industry performed in blackface or approximate to it.
I mean, you can see Bing Crosby in Holiday Inn. You can see Fred Astaire in Swing Time. There are all sorts, I mean, even poor little Shirley Temple.
Who told you to put that black on?
In just about every case, putting on the blackface becomes this way that white characters get to actually show their emotional selves. Characters bond, they get in touch with their feelings, and that's a fascinating dimension of what Black representation is doing there.
You know, some people think that Hollywood created these stereotypes. Hollywood did not create them.
Well, Hollywood has been a huge mechanism for perpetuating these kinds of performative traditions that date back to blackface minstrelsy.
We can't say conclusively how it got started or when, but we do know a pivotal time. And this was in the 1830s. There was an entertainer, Thomas Rice, who did a song called Jump Jim Crow,
in which he was doing a caricature of what he said was an authentic performance by a black stableman. He had seen this guy who worked around the horses.
And who did this dance, and he watched him and in essence sort of lifted it and then went in blackface, performed it very successfully. And it begins to spread, and eventually we get the minstrel troupes.
Minstrelsy was the primary mechanism for white people to see anything related to Black culture.
And what the minstrel shows were doing was to take any fear a white audience may have had about African Americans, to take that fear out of it. That these childlike figures, they can't hurt you. They can't supervise themselves. They're in need of supervision. And so this power balance where whites are in control of these untutored darky figures. It's justified.
It replicated what people romanticized about life in the antebellum South, because it was presenting a picture of slavery times in which slaves were happy, that they're dancing and singing and happy to be serving their masters, which is, of course, a grotesque misrepresentation of what the slave system actually was for not just the people who were enslaved, but the people who were the slave masters.
What I think is sometimes harder to see is the ways in which blackface performance afforded a certain kind of curiosity and fascination with African-American life.
And so minstrel shows became an extremely popular American entertainment. In fact, people say that blackface minstrelsy is really the first American art form.
And it produced a sense of the national culture, and the national culture as predominantly African-American. The massive irony of all this is that fundamental African-Americanness
I am proud to present our star
is being produced by white men in blackface.
Hollywood certainly did not invent blackface. What the cinema does, though, is perpetuates and circulates these images far beyond what live theatrical performance could do.
What changes Hollywood is that sound comes in 1927. And ironically, who brings it in? The minstrel man himself, Al Jolson, with a movie called The Jazz Singer.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Goodbye. Don't cry.
Jolson was known for his incredibly gregarious, buoyant, sort of energetic performance style. So when you watch him in The Jazz Singer, just the way that he kind of dances around as he's singing, he really gives us a sense of what must have been so appealing to audiences about blackface minstrelsy.
Don't cry, Tootsie. Don't cry. Goodbye, Tootsie. Goodbye. Mammy.
He has 2 blackface numbers. He can do songs without being in blackface, but he can't leave it behind.
The sun shines west, but I know where the sun shines best.
And the audience for Al Jolson doesn't, I'm talking the white audience, doesn't want him to leave it behind.
Yes, I'm going up to heaven.
Wonderbar has one of the most exaggerated, extended blackface musical performances in classic film. And Al Jolson plays this character who's going up to heaven, and it's a black version of heaven, or it's a white version of a black version of heaven. So pork chops are growing on the trees, and there's watermelons everywhere.
And here is a man who has risen to stardom on the idea of black culture. And you who have made a career of this, why? I mean, to further demean black people.
It's probably shocking to people now to see this and think, well, how was that possibly acceptable? But this kind of representation seemed perfectly fine to the powers that be because they maintain the status quo in terms of America's race relations. If there had been a questioning of the nostalgia that people had for the Old South, or if you have black characters who are asserting some kind of agency or even activism, God forbid, if you have characters, black and white characters, in some kind of intimate relationship, those were the kinds of things that were being censored at the time.
And you know, my feeling is that many of the people at that point working in movies were aware of blackface during vaudeville and may have had some kind of nostalgia for it or felt that it was entertainment value in it.
So you get such strange things like Fred Astaire's celebration of Bill Bojangles Robinson in the movie Swing Time.
Fred Astaire always talked about how important black tap dancers were to his development. And Bill Bojangles Robinson, he always said was one of his heroes.
When we see Fred Astaire, he's got on the flashy jacket and so forth. And, there's footage of Bojangles dancing where he's wearing a suit and tie, well tailored.
I mean, it's a tribute, but it's also a way for Fred Astaire to demonstrate that he's taken the best from the best. He can profess all the love in the world for Bill Bojangles Robinson, but Astaire becomes a much bigger star than Bill Bojangles Robinson. And he has many more kinds of opportunities that are ever available to Robinson.
I don't want to be unfair to Fred Astaire because I think he did appreciate Bojangles, but it still comes across in another way. Why did you have to choose these clothes? Why did you have to choose this particular style to salute him? And again, it's this minstrel thing.
Well, you see blackface kind of taper off in Hollywood films in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And with World War II, this country is under a lot of pressure, if it's fighting fascism abroad, to demonstrate that it really is a model of democracy in the world. And so the Negro problem becomes a very difficult problem for the United States to explain on an international stage.
I suppose we still contend with it today because we live in a society structured in racial dominance that both loves cultural multiplicity and African-American art forms, but doesn't know how to handle them, doesn't know how to deal with them, and certainly doesn't respect them.
And that's why we really have to stay on top of it. And even all of these intellectual theories about what it means and so forth. All right, but I also just say, it's insulting.
It's crucial to recognize the kinds of things that people like Richard Pryor or Dave Chappelle, we could even bring Tiffany Haddish into this conversation, the way that more contemporary Black artists have struggled with this shadow of blackface minstrelsy in an attempt to really recover some of the things that are so valuable and important and life-giving about Black humor, about Black musicality.
We all expect some dancing when the minstrels come to town. So now may I present to you Mr. Rufus Rastus Jefferson Davis Brown.
There's no excuse in the present digital moment for remaining in darkness about the histories of these films, the cultural histories that they reflect.
Showing the films does not mean that you're basically saying it's all right. You're just showing a film as it was and as problematic as it may be.
You can have conversations with people about these things too, so that you don't just consume them in isolation, but instead become curious and really studious about understanding where they come from.
I think that, people, if they want to see these films, should have the opportunity. It is history.
That's why we watch movies. You want to look hard at American life. That's what it is, and it's worth contending with.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking over now.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You could have turned away, but you didn't. You're mad. Quite mad.
Don't think you've made it under my skin. Could never get in. Forget about it.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
TCM expertly reframes wine from a box. From deeply focused winemakers around the world to exclusive movie bottles delivered to your doorstep, the TCM Wine Club curates each case, pairing incredible wines with great classic movies seen on TCM. Every bottle tells a story. Join now and receive 15 wines, including 3 classic movie wines for one incredible value. Visit TCMWineClub.com or call 1-844-WINE-TCM. Escape for 5 nights on the TCM Classic Cruise, November 12th to the 17th aboard the Disney Dream.
How far off the diving board do you want me to jump?
To Grand Cayman and Disney's Castaway Cay with legends Chevy Chase, Richard Dreyfuss, Lainey Kazan, Dina Martin, Pat Boone, Bob Mackey, Sean Young, plus TCM's 5 hosts. Book your stateroom today. Visit TCMCruise.com or call 1-877-223-7030.
People only really think of him in those swashbuckling roles. But my dad, he did 50 films. And the people who know their classics, they know that he's done some fine films with some very, very good acting. He just got better with every film.
You can't afford to be too careless or overconfident at first. It's rather like a game at school. You've got to be on your toes, watch everything. Never forget anything you learn.
He knew that he came in on his charm and athletic ability.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jab you.
Sorry? With a left like that? Well, young man, I see you can take care of yourself. Come on. I won't hit you very hard. In fact, I don't think I'm going to hit you at all.
It wasn't about his acting in the beginning, but he grew to understand what he needed to do.
I've changed a great deal in the past year, Ellen. A great deal.
The most amazing thing is that Jack Warner took this amazing risk of an unknown in a major film. Nobody does that today, and I don't know what it could possibly have felt like to become what they call a star overnight.
Welcome to Sherwood, my lady.
Olivia de Havilland's first comment about my father was, "Oh my God, the most beautiful creature I've ever seen in my life just walked in this room to do the first test shots they did for Captain Blood." He was charming, witty, wonderful. It was just a beautiful combination, and their underlying affection for each other that accumulated over the years was real and honest, and it really showed on the screen.
I think we'd better be getting back. I'm afraid it'll be dark before we get there.
Are you sure it's the dark you're afraid of?
What do you mean?
Maybe you're afraid I might kiss you.
You wouldn't dare.
Now, I wish I were as sure of that as you are.
You know, my father was he was really a rascal. You know, he wanted to frolic through this life having a good time. Whether he had success or failure, it didn't faze him one way or the other. He just kept searching for that self-entertainment that led him through the rest of his life.
From 1931 to 1955, moviegoers were treated to beautiful travel shorts that appeared just before the main feature.
Copenhagen has a population of about 900,000 inhabitants, and it is estimated that there is one bicycle registered for every 3 persons.
Created by New York filmmaker James A. Fitzpatrick, Travel Talks gave audiences a glimpse into countries most would never get to see in person.
After a 3-hour climb, we behold Machu Picchu, the deserted Inca city.
Producing over 200 shorts in 25 years, Fitzpatrick logged 500,000 miles and frequently appeared on screen. James Anthony Fitzpatrick grew up in New York City and attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. But when his acting career stalled, he moved behind the camera. For years, Fitzpatrick made a variety of short films. Then at 35, found his life's work, the travelogue.
Volendam, a small fishing village on the shores of
Distributed under Fitzpatrick Travel Talks by MGM, 1934's Holland in Tulip Time was shot in the new 3-strip Technicolor process, bringing the action to vivid life. Travel Talks grew in popularity since overseas travel was difficult in an era that saw a Great Depression and a World War. Fitzpatrick traveled 9 months out of the year, a commitment to his work that brought his audiences rare dramatic footage.
And today on the plan,
like the sun worship ritual of the Incas,
colorful scenes are reenacted by the native Indians,
South Africa's Zulu tribe, and encounters with indigenous cultures closer to home, such as the Sioux Indian Sundance and the Hawaiian hula.
and hunting, hulas of courtship and love, hulas of birth.
At a time when actual travel was largely limited to those with means, everyday moviegoers were treated to panoramic vistas of far-flung locations, all from the comfort of their theater seats. For the price of a movie ticket, Travel Talks brought audiences thrilling new perspectives on world wonders, natural, man-made,
Longest single-span bridge in the world.
and somewhere in between.
Great sculpture is credited to Joan Robinson, and the execution of the idea is in the hands of Gutzon Borglum, one of the world's foremost sculptors. Our ship has now become a floating home.
His practice of narrating the films himself allowed him to treat his audience as a travel companion, seeing the country together for the first time.
Who spoke with a Scottish accent so thick that we had difficulty in understanding him.
The result was a paradox that worked. Viewers saw the wide world on a big screen in glorious Technicolor, but in a way that was nevertheless intimate. This approach, along with the sheer volume of films he produced, earned Fitzpatrick his reputation as the voice of the globe. The vignettes were not merely pretty pictures strung together. They routinely touched on the architecture, religion, culture, and history of the places he visited. His scripts suggest Fitzpatrick was a curious man, able to step outside his roots. By focusing on the remarkable, the enduring, and the great achievements of humankind, Fitzpatrick's work remains evergreen and still inspires that wistful longing for adventure.
In San Jose, our plane is waiting to transport us to our northern homes, 3,000 miles away. Today could mean a complete swing around the world.
I adore being dressed in something frilly when my date comes to get me at my place. Out I go with my Joe or John or Billy, like a filly who is ready for the race. When I have a brand new hairdo with my eyelashes all in curl, I float as the clouds on air do. I enjoy being a girl. When men say I'm cute and funny, and my teeth aren't teeth but pearl, I just lap it up like honey. I enjoy being when a fella sends me flowers. I drool over dresses made of lace. I talk on the telephone for hours with a pound and a half of cream upon my face.
Original elevator, Eddie.
Nice, yeah.
1928.
Wow, I feel like Mary Astor in there.
You always feel like Mary Astor.
You know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That's right.
nice.
So the cicada room.
You can see that it was a haberdashery at one time. So everybody shopped here, right? This was like the place for the Hollywood stars.
Abel.
Clark Abel, Robert Taylor, Gary Cooper, Cecil B. DeMille.
And 9-time winner of the Best Dressed Man, Adolphe Menjou. But he always going to walk around wearing an overcoat.
Well, the outfit isn't complete unless you have the matching overcoat.
So we're in downtown LA. What's the best LA-based noir?
Chinatown. Chinatown is the best LA movie, period.
I love Crisscross. That's an LA film.
Yeah, that's like top 5 noir ever.
Right, Lancaster in it, Yvonne DiCarlo.
Yep, on Bunker Hill, and it's got the Angel's Flight. But you know, now that I think about it, this place is actually in a Raymond Chandler story.
Really?
Yes, The Lady in the Lake. His actual novel starts in this building, in the Oviatt building. You may have noticed the shoes. I wore these shoes today because they are a tribute to the sidewalk that used to be in front of this building, which was all black and white checkerboard rubber blocks. During World War II, they tore them all out because they needed the rubber for the war effort. And if you read The Lady in the Lake, the novel, that's the very first paragraph of the book, is Marlowe walks in the building for a meeting with this guy, and they're tearing out the rubber blocks.
Well, it's appropriate. That's a nice segue, because I wore these boots today because I wear them every day.
As I can tell. Anyone would know that. But in looking at those boots, they would say, hey, do you sleep in those? Oh, I'm going to drink to that. Right, nicely done. Nicely done. Do you think your grandfather shopped here?
There's no way Herman Mankiewicz came into this store. First of all, I don't think he was. I don't think he had that sort of sartorial bent, a satirical bent, but not a sartorial bent.
Rhapsody in Blue is the single most popular American concert piece composed in the century. The thing that's fascinating is that George Gershwin wrote it in 3.5 weeks. He wrote it because Paul Whiteman announced that Gershwin was going to write this piece for a concert he was giving on Lincoln's birthday, 1924. George called up Whiteman and said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, will you write it?" And George said, "Well, okay, I'll try." So this piece was written very quickly, and nobody expected it was going to have the success that it had. 4 months later, Rhapsody in Blue was recorded by Victor Records, and when George went home to his brother Ira and said, "They're going to record Rhapsody in Blue," Ira's response was, "Why? Who's going to listen to it?" They considered it a piece of special material, but only a year later, it was one of the most popular concert pieces, and it became performed by orchestras all over the world. It's a piece that will always retain its energy and its freshness, and that's part of the allure of George Gershwin.